Welcome everybody to the next session at the Purpose Driven Business Summit. For those of you that are back for another session, welcome back. We're glad to have you. And for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, big welcome to you. You're gonna get to talk with a very nice person, Melanie Avjean, in a minute, and hear her story with Shell Creek Cellars. But before we start talking with Melanie, I wanna give you a few reminders. One, all the recordings from all the sessions are posted on my YouTube playlist. And I've been sending out the link for that. And if you use that link, you can go in and watch any of the videos anytime you want. I know I had one person tell me they tried to find it by going to my playlists and couldn't get there, but that's because he didn't use the link. So the link lets you in. And as within 24 hours after each speaker, hopefully sooner, those things get posted up there. So you can stay up with all the exciting things that people are sharing. The other thing I just want to remind you of is we have a private Facebook group set up. And that's where sort of the networking part of the summit happens. Because on Zoom these days, you know, we can't gather around the coffee pot, but the private Facebook group is kind of the best we can do for that. So I encourage you, if you're not already part of that group, join us and talk with your fellow attendees, and there's speakers in there as well. Share what you're up to. If you're thinking about something, or if you already have a purpose-driven company, tell us what you're doing. And if you have any questions or any ideas to share, that's the place to do it. So if you go to Facebook groups, it's called Purpose Summit. You click to join, and then one of my team will allow you in. So that's it for my reminders, and now we can get to the fun stuff. So welcome, Melanie. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for making this all come to fruition.
It's been a fun process, and it's really a treat for me and everybody attending to get to hear from great folks like yourself that are really committed to doing good in the world and through purpose-driven business. So I'm really grateful that you made time to be here with us today, and I look forward to learning more about what you're up to. But why don't we start with you just giving folks an overview of who you are and tell us a little bit about what your burning mission is on the planet right now.
My name is Mel Avjean, and I am a Tennessee girl, relocated here to the mountains when I got married. I live in Colorado now. And our son goes to CU at Boulder, and he's studying environmental studies. So his freshman year, he comes home and he's very frustrated, because I think once you learn what's going on in the world, ecology-wise, it's a super frustrating experience. So he says to me, nobody gives a shit. And I'm like, well, I don't know that that's it. I think that people get overwhelmed, and there's so many things that need to be fixed or done. People don't know where to start, so then they shut down. And I think that's something that Colin mentioned yesterday. We need to make it as easy as possible for people to make a difference. So his name is Zach. We had this long conversation, his dad and myself and him, and I just asked him, I said, of all the things that you've learned, what is the one thing that would make the biggest impact? The easiest thing, what's one thing we can ask people to do? And he said, quit using single-use plastic. So I have kind of a creative mind person. And I thought, well, how can we do this? How can we help? And we decided that we were going to do stainless steel straws. For one, after we had this conversation, I was doing a charity event at a golf course. So I'm out in Golden, and I'm the cart girl. So I'm complaining about all these cups and lids and straws, because I've never been out in that situation before. And this member looks at me and he says, yeah, we had house guests in from California last week, and they brought their own straws. And I was like awake for 3 days trying to figure out what we could do. And you know, you can go on the internet and you can find stainless steel straws. You can have them shipped to you from Amazon, you know, in a plastic package, which I think defeats the purpose. I don't think we're going to make a big, huge difference shipping things one at a time in plastic packaging. So our first product was just a bag. I probably have one. Oh, here, you'll like this one. Just a bag. It's got 4 pieces inside, and the bag says "suck it." Because we wanted it to be a fun gift item. So that was our first product, and we put it in a whole bunch of gift stores all over the country. Super successful. We've added a few other items in the meantime in the past year. So this is what you get in a little bag, and you get it for $12. And it's just something, we did funny sayings for different places around the country. We did one in Virginia that said "for the river," because that's what they call it there. And #1 seller, yes, I brought my own straw. So just fun bags. And it's the kind of thing that creates banter in a little gift shop. The ladies will come in, like they look at the dish towels. So that's what we decided we would do. We decided we would make it fun for people to purchase. Well, my very first little event was out in Boulder County. It was Molly McGee's craft fair, and I had my very first box that I had ordered. And I took it in, and there's my cat, took it in to the show, and I sold out the very first day. And you know who bought it? Was all the little ladies buying presents for their grandkids. They were stocking stuffers. And I'm like, well, this is not my target demographic. So if it works for them, then I think it's really going to work when everybody else sees it. So it was great. It's just a great start. We had a great first year. And here we are making our way through the second year.
Well, brave, because, well, you've done product-related businesses in the past.
Right.
That didn't scare you, it sounds like. You knew how to figure out how to do that.
I figured it out better this time. This was, I think that I call my first product my college education. But I got really fortunate this time. Speaking of, powerful people that make a difference, there's a lady here in Colorado named Sandy Womack, and she owns a gift showroom in Las Vegas and one here in Denver. And I met her after our first little craft show. I started doing big shows. Surf Expo was my first last January. Then I went to Seattle and we got Best New Product. Then I went to Denver and we got Best New Product. And Sandy came to my booth and changed my life. I mean, she said, oh, I have these rep groups of all these people here, and then I'm connected with all these other people around the country. So will you come to Las Vegas at our next meeting and present to them and see if they want to carry your stuff? Like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. That'd be great.
Right.
I'm for that. Write me down. So it's just been a whole bunch of series of things going right this time. I think timing helps. I think passion helps. I've discovered that I spend a whole lot of focus on retail, on wholesale accounts, people that sell retail last year. And I have a lot. I have a really cool map on my website that shows who carries it. But I did not focus at all on end consumers. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super excited to ship things one at a time, because that's part of what we do. We don't use any plastic in our packaging, our manufacturing, or our shipping. So I'd rather ship in a large box to companies, but during this time, it presented a little hole in my plan to me. So I need to make some adjustments for that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, and it should be useful to folks listening to see kind of what's possible in terms of the growth and how you can have ever greater reach. So like starting out doing individual shows where you have to stand, under a tent next to your table for
yes, you do.
Weekend, many weekends a year to sell anything, to then leveraging that and going to like bigger shows where stores actually come and are looking for cool products, and then having an in like the woman that invited you to Vegas, where then there's lots of folks that are going out and touching more folks that actually buy wholesale than maybe get to go to a show.
Right.
That's like a wonderful way to grow your reach.
It has been, I know how to do person-to-person selling, because selling to me is just educating. I make these and this is why I make them. And if they're passionate about the environment, then they'll see. It's not like, I'm selling these, they're 6 for $10 and get them now while they're hot. We do it for a reason. And in fact, one of the questions that people will ask you in the showroom is, oh, these are great. What else are you going to have? And my standard answer is maybe nothing, because we're not in the business just to manufacture stuff. There's a lot of stuff being manufactured already. So if we see a need, we'll do something. What I see though in this market is there's a lot of items with a real high retail price point that don't need to have a real high retail price point. Things that we can source and supply and sell to the consumer. We're always lowest in the market for our straws, and that's simply because we want people to buy them. We want anybody like any college kid that wants to make a difference, to be able to afford to buy stainless steel straws. And there's a lot of products that I see when I go to markets myself that people are just, I think, charging a lot of money for, that we could bring to the market at a better price, and then therefore maybe get a little bit better penetration.
Absolutely. Well, and I know I gave your straws as Christmas gifts to everybody I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. They're fun, and the sayings are fun. So that must help you also like stand out in the marketplace. So yes, it's a stainless steel straw. It's a good value, and you've put the fun factor in as well.
That's what we're trying. I have a friend that I went to high school with, and she is the most amazing woman. She is Chief Human Relations Officer for Lincoln Financial. I mean, she's like, if she quits her job, she's got to notify the SEC. And we communicate a lot. I saw her just last year, and she said that she had a dinner party and one of the guests brought her my straws as a gift. And I'm like, I've made it. Lisa Bettinger got my straws as a present. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how things work and to know. And then this time it's kind of challenging because I'm not selling a lot. I mean, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and I had the lady from the Virginia State Parks shoot me a little email just the other day and said, in the stores, in the parks where the stores are open, you're doing really well, and I just wanted you to know that. So it's just personal. The more people you meet, the more, we get invited to do events for national parks. Surf Expo is always big for us because those are people on the coast. But for me, everyone thinks that the biggest challenge with single-use plastic is ocean trash. And it's true, that is a huge challenge. But also just the manufacture of the plastic. So I think one of the reasons Zachy is studying environmental studies is because he's a ski kid. He grew up in Netherlands at 9,000 feet, and he's outside all the time. Mm. And he just opened my eyes to the fact that that's the headwaters. So things that we do here in the Rocky Mountains matter as well. And just the manufacture of the plastic affects the ozone and the weather, which affects our ski season, which affects tourism, which affects people's pocketbooks. So when you talk about it like that, people around the country can relate a little bit more to something that's generally thought of as an ocean problem.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to have somebody speaking, one of your recommendations for ocean.
Alex.
Next week. Alex will be with us next week, talking about what they're up to.
I tell you what, the 4Ocean guys are amazing. I don't know Alex personally. I know his brother, who's been a great mentor to me. And I was like a fangirl. Like I met him at because I follow what they do, and they have a huge impact on the world. And it was a catalyst for me. And I met him at a trade show, and he came up and he was, we were talking, we had booths close to each other, and he handed me his card. And I saw his last name, and I went, "Your family." And he looked around like, "Don't tell anybody." But it's so nice to me that more than just on a global level, just as colleagues, he's considerate and thoughtful and helpful. And when I spoke to you and sent him an email, he's like, "Absolutely." And then, who knew Alex was going to be on, the founder of the company. So I think it's great, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Well, and I think it's great that there's companies of all sizes. you're newer in this world.
Yeah, we're the little guy.
And then there's like 4Ocean and some even bigger organizations.
Right.
But you're all committed to doing good things for the environment, and helping to reverse some of the things that are causing problems. So, you know, it's nice to hear that there's a community, companies that you're doing slightly different things, but you're all kind of the same big picture mission, and you know, that you support each other, because, you know, sometimes it's all about competition, but what I'm hearing you say is some of that is, you know, not always true.
Yeah, there's a few, you know, there's always one, but but for the most part, we do what we can because we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. So, you know, if they're successful, if this person and this person are successful, then it's going to make a difference for all of us. It's fun and it's a great way to spend my life. But the bottom line is that we are guests on this planet. And if we don't figure it out, it'll be fine without us. You know, the earth will go on. It's, you know, we're not selling stainless steel straws to save the planet. The planet will be fine. We're selling stainless steel straws to save humanity because we're going down a long, dark path.
And fish and turtle, and,
sure.
and, you know, it's the whole ecosystem, really.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I find it interesting that because you've been sort of a serial entrepreneur, but you've always had a piece of what you're doing that is about how do you make a difference, how do you give back, with the pillowcase product, like what was that company?
Flipside Pillow.
You know, they were cool, and you were doing good, doing give backs and supporting, you know, kids with, you know, in hospitals. And so you want to give a few bars on that? And are you still doing that, or have you switched full time to?
We have pillowcases in storage, but my whole bandwidth, you know, last year, starting in January at that first show, when this took off, it took everything I had. We have a small team of a really great warehouse staff. So that changed my life. The fact that I wasn't packing boxes anymore. And somebody to do social media, and then I do all the shows. But now I have time to work on pillowcases. I just haven't because I've enjoyed being a little bit lazy. But we did Flipside Pillow. It was a pillowcase with one side of it was a super soft minky fabric. And we designed all these fabrics with inspirational messages and funny images. And when we had them cut and sewn, one side was the really soft minky with the fun stuff, and the other side was just plain cotton fabric. And we had attached a permanent marker. So the marker, you could have your classroom sign it, have your team sign it if somebody got hurt, if somebody was in the hospital. And it was not as successful at the wholesale level as I hoped, because I think it's just a really tough display to do a pillowcase. I don't know. I had some different feedback. One lady said that I need to make it more tween oriented, but you know, I don't know. It was a first shot, and I did it, and it taught me a lot. And we still, you know, there's a local charity here called Bags of Fun. It's the Gabby Krause Foundation, and they take backpacks to hospitals for kids filled with stuff. And we still work with them and donate stuff. But it kind of taught me just, so what happens if it doesn't work? Nothing. You know, it took the fear factor out of the next step for me.
Well, and you had to go through a whole business development process, like the manufacturing, the design, manufacturing, trying to figure out how to get product out. Like you say, that was your training ground for what.
It's interesting. I mean, it's funny that it was so difficult to have fabric made. You know, if I wanted to just buy fabric at the fabric store and make a bunch of pillows, it's super easy. but to have like to say, we want this to say, you know, rise and shine, or, you know, whatever our inspirational thing was, to have it made, it was a big investment because you had to make it a lot at a time. And I thought that was going to be the hard part. So I'm like, okay, here it is. I'm so excited. The whole big shipment came, and I thought that was going to be easy sailing from there on. But that's where the work starts.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you go out and you talk to people, and you know, so.
Well, I think sometimes, especially, you know, the companies that have gotten to be pretty well known and have grown, you know, people assume they sort of always started there, and that are thinking about how to pivot and maybe that want to start some kind of purpose-driven business. I think with what you just said and what Margaret said this morning, it's like sometimes you have an idea and you go for it, and then you figure out, maybe I need to either pivot that or try something new.
Right.
Just keep going.
Yeah, it's not a failure. It's a learning process. There's a funny graph that says everyone thinks success looks like this, and it really looks, you know, and then you get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of something that I read about science yesterday, and it said that no one's actually watched science at work before, like trying to figure out a vaccine for COVID-19. We see that people make mistakes and they give us information that doesn't work, and then they pivot and they go, oh, well, now we're going to put these people over on their stomach because that works better. And we're actually watching science in action, and we realize that it's a big series of try it. If it doesn't work, stand up quickly and try something else. And I think that's what it is to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is 90% in your head and having a good husband. Sometimes what's in my head is not what anybody wants to hear.
Well, yeah, I know, you know, it's stick-to-itiveness, like you
Yep.
have to do it. And then, you know, you've had great feedback from consumers about your product. You've had great feedback from the folks that are actually the front line selling your product.
Right.
But then, you know, and I know Margaret mentioned this morning, like, you know, how do you change, like, to do more maybe online sales, or even though you don't really want to have to send out onesies, like that's a way to still get your product out. So
Right. And we send in cardboard. So I shouldn't let that bother me because we don't send anything in plastic. So let me close my window. They're mowing.
the day of fun things going on with Zoom, like my power shut off this morning.
Oh, nice. That had to be fun for you.
It was fun, and you know, lawnmowers, it's like the days of Zoom. So
I do want to mention, you know, the people that you meet along the way. We do have 3 charitable partners that I really like. Our first charity that we chose to support was the Sierra Club, because I'm a firm believer in do what you do well, and pay someone else to do what you don't, because it just causes you frustration. And the Sierra Club is great at legislation. They change laws. I mean, they make things happen on a national level as far as parks and funding and that sort of thing. And that's not anything that I have the bandwidth or the knowledge to do. So they were the first charity partner that we chose, because it's something that they excel at. The second thing we chose was the Surfrider Foundation. And that was my friend Carrie Morgan. Her husband is an old hippie, she says. But Surfrider Foundation actually, I mean, they are hands-on. They put like cigarette containers on the beaches. They do beach cleanups all the time. They make an actual hands-on difference. And then most recently, we added One Tree Planted because they're doing a great program for the orcas on the Northwest, and have discovered that if they keep trees along the coast, it keeps all the little sea life, you know, that the orca feed on, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all interrelated. So we added that after COVID started, only because I feel like of all times, it's time for us to buckle down and try to do more good. Because it's just, when society or when the earth asks you for more, that's when you do more, I think. I think now's a time that, okay, I'm not buying those tennis shoes because we're going to do this month.
Yeah.
So those are 3 organizations that we give to monthly.
You give 2 months. I was going to ask, so what does being a partner look like in your case? And it sounds like you picked organizations of sort of different sizes that were all working in a similar space to what.
Yes. And accomplishing different things.
Mm-hmm.
One Tree Planet I love, because that, ocean or not, that makes the difference as far as what we breathe. I mean, the trees are the most important thing on our planet. And the fact that it tied in with the Orchid Project, that was great for me. Surfrider, those people they're hands-on. They get out there and they do the work. And so it's like 3 different things all focused on the earth. And it was funny when you were talking about companies that make a difference. I always think instantly about ecology and the environment.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many amazing charities and companies out there that do things for different causes. It doesn't have to be, no plastic. It can be any other thing that they have chosen to make a difference with.
Yeah. But, I think what you have chosen to do, which is pick nonprofits that are in alignment with what your big picture mission is, makes a ton of sense. I think that anybody looking at what you're doing, it's easy for them to understand what the linkage is, and
right.
You would pick those. Because there's a lot of extremely worthy nonprofits out there. Depending on who you talk to, in Colorado alone, there's like 25,000 of them. And
yeah.
Smaller businesses like us, we can't support everybody.
Right.
But then picking, like, I'm a firm believer that like what you did do is the best practice, which is pick something that is in alignment with what your company's all about. And
you can't say yes to everything. Something happened. So at Surf Expo last year, somebody approached me. I think it was a charity for a hospital. They do this big maybe golf tournament on an island every year, and they do this book. I mean, they print a book and they send it out to 10,000 people. And she was so excited to tell me about this book. And I asked her, I said, wait, is this an online thing or do you print it and send it? And she goes, oh no, we send it. And the person with her kind of went, that's not a selling point as far as I'm concerned. Probably a great charity, but do we need to print and send 10,000 books to people who probably will put them on their coffee table or not?
right.
So I can understand how people will support something and then later go, yeah, I don't know if that was the best choice for us. It takes a lot of due diligence.
Absolutely. So for the folks listening in that have an idea, they know maybe there's a cause that they really.
Those are my people.
Yeah. What guidance would you give them about where to start and how to get going?
So if it's a product, and this year, of course, is an odd year, but if it's a product, a lot of the big gift marts have temporaries. And there's some people that I know that have been in business for a long time, some local people that have great businesses, and they don't work with the larger rep groups from the country. They just go and they do the temporaries, and they work their booth for 3 to 5 days or whatever, and shop owners come in, and that's how they get discovered. So there are lots of avenues.
And so by temporaries, you mean like almost
temporary
like
showroom.
Show?
Yes. Yeah, so not a pop-up for like not a street fair.
Right.
But in Las Vegas canceled theirs this year, but at the same time, the World Market Center in Las Vegas hosts their big gift event for retailers. There's a whole nother, it's a tent filled with probably 200 smaller companies that are trying to make it on their own, that are going out, and a lot of them are super successful. Fair is an amazing website. Last February, I had a friend who owns a shop down the street. And she says, do you ever sell your stuff on Fair? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's FAIRE.
Okay.
And it's a website where shop owners can go, and it's like shopping on Amazon, but it's not. It's small businesses trying to connect with other small businesses. And even they have done a great job of getting businesses to come purchase from these smaller companies. Like if I invited someone to come to my shop on Fair, I think I can give them $100 free to my store, 60-day terms, and free shipping for a year. So
Wow.
that is an absolute amazing, it's been a disruptor. The rep groups don't like it at all. But it's an amazing way for someone with a small product to get started. I have goat milk, body butter from Bates Family Farm. I have, what is this? Well, that's my sister's, but just stuff that you, like I bought masks,
Uh-huh.
things that you can go on that website and you can, if you're a retailer, you can, buy it wholesale. But that's just another way that people that want to set their own parameters, want to, create a certain amount of stuff and not worry about, selling out in a weekend, they can go on Fair and open their own little store.
So it seems like because of things like Fair, in addition to like the big in-person trade shows that have been around for a long time, like there's a lot more avenues these days where newer companies can get their product out
Absolutely.
in front of people. But even on like a fair or something, like what are your thoughts, or do you have any tips for, like you've mentioned the communication piece and building relationships with people? Like you can't just put your stuff there and then not talk about it, I assume.
Yeah, you need to kind of get, my social media presence isn't great, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I have enough shops that have great social, and they post our stuff, so it gets around. But I think part of it is a lot of this, like where you and I met, is in the community. And you take advantage of different programs, and you take different classes. I'm sorry about that. And you meet different people, different connections. Just wait a second.
Okay.
Can you hear that? It's so loud.
Probably louder for you than it is for us. So
Well, the only thing worse than that would be if Sparky was here and he would be losing his mind. So yeah, you have to, there's just different, and then you get to meet other vendors. So when I go to a show, I meet all kinds of other people from around the country, and they'll say, oh, you need to call this guy. This guy, oh, he would love to have that in his store. So it's just kind of it's a community like anything else that really tries to help each other, because mostly we all sell different stuff.
mm-hmm. Well, and I think like you mentioned the gift shows, but there's shows for a lot of other kind of lines of goods as well.
All kinds of shows. There's a garden center show in Chicago. Ace Hardware hosts their own event. There's total eco shows. There's travel. There's just all kinds of, you just get on the internet.
Furniture.
Doing your research. Yeah.
Housewares, yeah.
Yep.
And so it sounds like that was actually a really good move for you, was to take that step to go get a booth, because it's not cheap to do it. You have to get there.
It's scary. It's scary. Like Atlanta, to go to Atlanta, I probably spend $5,000 on a booth. Then I fly there. Then we stay there for 5 or 6 days and meals and all that. And it's pricey. Mm-hmm. So you have to, my leap of faith was doing Surf Expo. Jumped in, I did Surf Expo after the success that I'd had at Christmas time. It was expensive, and it scared the daylights out of me. But we went, and it was great. So, you just, as you start, my sister was with me, and we start writing orders, and we keep looking at each other. And then John Harris comes over from Kitty Hawk Kites, and they have 14 locations. And Spice and Tea Exchange comes over, and they have hundreds of locations. And it was just like, wow, we did it. And then we go back to the hotel and put our feet up and eat some food and do it again the next day. But it's exciting. I was in Atlanta in January, I think. It was January or February, and it was the end of a long stretch show, so it had to be February or March. And I had been there. I'd been to surf. I don't remember where. And it was a Friday, and I was driving myself to the airport. It was raining. I was exhausted. It was traffic in Atlanta. But I look up to the left of me, and I see this whole big bank of office buildings. And I thought about what flashed in front of my eyes is what my life could look like. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm perfectly happy to be here in this car, driving myself to Atlanta, to the airport, because you get to be in charge and you get to live life on your own terms. I mean, there's still lots of responsibilities and you have to show up, but you're doing it for your family in contrast to doing it for somebody else's company.
Yeah.
Gives you a lot of energy. They say that an entrepreneur will work 80 hours for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for somebody else. I think that's really valid.
Absolutely. Well, because you've had a couple of companies at least, any tips you'd give people about how to get started?
Find a way. My mantra is always to just find a way. If it's something that, I hear people all the time, well, I'd really like to do that, but I work a full-time job and I don't want to give up my Saturday. Or, okay, then that's what you're going to have, and for me, after I did that charity event at the golf course, I actually spent the rest of the summer working at that golf course because I liked it and they liked me. And it wasn't selling season yet. I had just ordered all the straws, so I hadn't started. So it was a way for me to pursue what I want to do and still make some money in the meantime, because, life's not free.
Right.
So you just find a way. Everything's figure outable if it's that important to you.
Yeah. And it is hard to juggle, doing a full-time job and finding the bandwidth to start something, but there's a ton of people that is the path. It's not like you have to have $1 bazillion in the bank to get started.
Right.
You just have to do it, is what
I don't have young kids. I say that there's a way to do everything. I think these people that have young kids right now that are trying to work and have them go to, teach their school, and I think the silver lining for me in COVID is I don't have young kids, because my goodness gracious, hats off to all you people that are trying to manage that. But yeah, and I think too that I believe in God's divine timing. Mm-hmm. Things happen to you when they're supposed to happen. It's like when you want to sell something, people don't want to buy. People are on their own time frame. They want to buy it when they want to buy it, not when you want to sell it. And I think just to keep the faith and to realize that, we're on this little spinning planet and nobody has anything under control. We think we do, but we're doing the best we can. And just remember, in the big picture, it's all going to be okay. So give it a try. And if you need help, reach out, and there's a ton of people to help.
Well, I think that's really good guidance. I know I've been guilty of trying to figure it out all by myself, sitting in my office, and it doesn't go very far if at all, using that approach. So you mentioned mentors earlier, and talking to different people. I think that's really good guidance. And sometimes when it's people are afraid, oh, well, I don't want to share what I'm up to, somebody might steal the idea, or I need to have them sign whatever agreement that they're not going to steal my idea. But it's then nobody knows what you're up to and they can't help you either.
And everybody's on their own path.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with your idea. Could be great, but they're over here doing their idea.
Yeah.
There's an amazing book by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it's called Big Magic. And she says that that her theory is ideas are like energy, and they're in the world like sound, everything else, we just can't see them. And an idea will come in, it just wants to get made. So it'll tap on your shoulder and you ignore it or you push it away, or then it'll come around again. And eventually it'll get bored and it'll go to somebody else. So somebody else gets to make the idea. So they're out there and you're given an opportunity and you can say yes or no, it's not for me, or, you know, maybe later.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad when the idea tapped on your shoulder that you decided to go for it, because
Like immediately. But I'm 57. So,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of living under my belt. And so, you know, somebody that doesn't have as much life experience, it's a little bit scarier, because by the time you get to be my age or our age, we realize that it's all going to be okay.
yeah,
You don't really know that when you're super young.
right, right. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for sharing your ideas with us and telling us about your path with Shell Creek Cellars. And so what's the best way for people to stay in touch with you? You mentioned Instagram, and you want to tell people about your website?
Yeah, we're on Insta, we're on Facebook, we're just Shell Creek Cellars everywhere. Website is shellcreeksellars.com. Email is info@shellcreeksellars. Instagram is Shell Creek Cellars. You can go to our website and spend some money if you want. That would be great. We would appreciate that. But yeah, reach out, because just the community gets bigger and it just makes it more fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a ton, Melanie, and thanks everybody that tuned in to listen to Melanie Live. And for those of you that are listening to the recording, thanks for spending time with us and hearing about how another business got an idea and decided to really move with it, take it to market, because as Melanie explained, she could see the greater good that it was able to do. So, and that there's lots of creative ways to start getting out there and start selling things. So you can do it. That's a strong message that Melanie was giving you. So go forth and prosper, and we'll see you on the next summit session.
Thanks, Sue. Bye.